Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, all the people it's reaching, and just my objective was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And just with the message I receive on a weekly basis, this podcast is definitely doing that, and I feel so very blessed with it. So thank you for everyone that's supported, everyone that's listened, everyone that's been a part of my journey thus far. I feel very blessed. Been going through so many planetary shifts and everything's just shifting. And if this podcast makes a difference to one person, then I made a difference, and it really lifts my heart and my soul. So thank you. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. I love what I get to do. I get to guide people to truly be their authentic selves, to remove the layers of who they are, to become authentic. And I feel like we're being pushed to do that. And I get to guide people. And, my healing happens as I heal others too. So my voice resonates. If you feel like I can help you in some way, then reach out. Send me a DM, send me an email. All my stuff is always on the show notes. The beauty of this podcast is also I get to interview some amazing guests, and I'm excited to have Vanessa with me today. I met Vanessa recently. She's such a beautiful light. I was on her podcast, or at least we recorded last week, and she's on this one. So I'm excited for that cross creation. It's such a beautiful thing to do. And Vanessa, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Over to you.
That I would use to describe myself is Vanessa, a woman. I'm a mother of 2 adult children. I am a fiance, due to be married next March. I finally found the love of my life. I'm a daughter, a sister, a friend, a business person. They're just the labels. I think my life's work has taken me on a journey that I never expected. Has taught me that I am so much more than those labels, and I am so much more than my physicalness. And now my life's work is about understanding who I truly am, and the energy that beats my heart is also the energy that orchestrates everything. So I've shifted from focusing on the outside of people in my work to the inside of people. So it brings me great joy. A brief introduction of who I am today.
That's beautiful. And I love the comment around labels, because to me, that's old paradigm, right? Kind of, this is who I am. This is, I am an Akashic record reader, but that's not who I am. That's a modality that I have access to. And, it's not, I'll always talk to people about our light, our gifts is our light. That's our gift. And we can learn modalities and we can learn things. We can, play these roles that as a soul we chose to play, as you said, daughter, fiance, and, kind of all these other roles you mentioned. And it's kind of like, a lot of that comes from our programming. And it's just such a beautiful way of putting it. Even Akashic Records, it's like, that's the label we put on it. And we have to call it something. So it's what it is. But for me, the records are around me everywhere. And I don't know if I can put a label on it, but calling them Akashic Records is something that people resonate with. So that's what I'll do. So let's talk a little bit about, we were talking before we started recording about, the current energy and kind of stopping and appreciating the magic. We have the pleasure of recording this week. We both have our birthdays coming this week. We're recording end of March. I'll release the episode in a few weeks, but it's end of March. We've just shifted, just had a partial solar eclipse with a new moon, lots of planetary shifts, and it continues to be an intense time. But also, we were kind of talking about, it's really important to slow down and appreciate the magic. So I'd love to start there. For me, like I said, there's so much shifting, and I always describe it as, the spirit soul is excited about this change. It's kind of ready. It's been preparing lifetimes. And for some of us, the human is struggling.
Yes.
Because the human wants to control, wants to know what's next. And it's kind of hard. So I'd love for you to talk about, what are you finding with the current energy, and how are you making sure that you stay grounded and kind of embrace the magic that's happening inside you?
Wow, it's a good question, isn't it? You touched on it about there being that program, and that's the bit that I think so many of us struggle with, but we don't know that that's what we're struggling with. The conditioning, the programming. I really wish teachers at school or our parents, if we knew better, pulled us to one side and taught us how to appreciate that we're so much more than our physical being. I wish they taught us to learn how to be still, to be present and be quiet and to listen. Because I think if we learn how to do that at an early age, and the fact that it is essential to our overall well-being, then I don't think we would be pulled off center, and I don't think our programs would rule the show as much as they do. And I think what I'm experiencing right now is exactly that. You said the soul is excited. It's almost like if the soul had a voice, it would say, finally, thank goodness, thank you. It knows that it's come here for full expression, to be a gift in this world. And if we all showed up as our souls wanted us to be, it would be so much more of a harmonious experience. But the problem is the programs that develop the ego, that unlovely thinking mind that takes us completely away from who we truly are and why we're here, just creates that separation and that competition. And then we just have this internal fight going on within us. And we don't even know that that's what's going on. I think that's the heartbreaking thing. I tried as a youngster. I was quite quiet and I was encouraged to be a good girl by my parents, like I think many parents would encourage their children to be. And I followed suit. I really wanted to please, and I just wanted to experience kindness and joy and simplicity, I think. And I got pulled away by trying too hard to be a peacemaker where there was unsettling times around me. So what I'm experiencing right now is the struggle going on within people where the soul is crying out. It's really ready for expression. The world has got to a place where it is that the war and the hatred that we're experiencing every day on many levels, whether that's the macro level of the global or internally and everywhere in between, that war and that hatred is giving us an excuse to stay trapped in our program. And the soul is like, no more, come on. But we are so conditioned, and actually we're so frightened, because I've got this going on in me as well right now. I'm being called to a much, I was going to say higher, it feels higher because I really feel like I'm being stretched upwards and outwards. I'm really being called to expand, and it takes me daily work to be able to lean in and listen and follow that guidance, which sometimes is really quite cloudy. So the way I stay grounded, and I've taught myself over the years, is to, with a simple tool that I use all the time as best I can, 1, 2, 3. When I feel stretched or unlovely or triggered in any way, one is to pause where I'm at and just recognize that if I continue to remain triggered or unlovely or upset in any way, it's only going to get worse. So that number 1 is pause. Number 2 is to breathe. Because if I can concentrate and bring my attention to my breathing, I remind myself I'm being breathed. I'm not breathing, I'm being breathed. And if that life force that's living in me in any given moment for as long as I'm on this planet is breathing my lungs, then I want to do my best to be present with that, because it's clearly got a better idea of life than I have. And number 3 is to feel my beating heart. Because I struggled a lot growing up with my physicalness, whether that was my looks or my body or how I showed up in the world or my capabilities. And when I felt very, very stretched, probably nearly 20 odd years ago, and very challenged by life, my understanding was, if there is a power that knows more about my life than I do, how do I align myself with that? How do I connect to that? Because it's surely got to be better than this existence I'm living. And my dad said to me, God wouldn't give you anything. He also didn't give you the ability to overcome. And I felt truly encouraged by that. And I thought, what is that? So I've come to understand that that power of love, some call God, I call God, in my work, I call it the power of love, infinite intelligent force. If that's orchestrating everything and it's turning the world and growing the grass and beating my heart, then I owe it to that power to pause, breathe, and feel my beating heart and just allow it to heal the unlovely that I'm experiencing in this time. And it can take 10, 20, 30 seconds, really just to sit with the presence of my beating heart. And it brings me away out of my head, down into my heart, where my power is. And the relief I felt when I first started practicing this was the tears just flowed. So I knew I was experiencing something. And
I love it. I love it.
I just practice being there as best I can. Lots of
I
other
love
tools,
it.
but that's the initial one.
I love it. So much wisdom in everything you said. And it's interesting, right? I 100% agree. The universe, our guides, whatever you want to call it, whatever power, isn't going to give us anything we can't handle. I truly believe that. So, and I get there's somebody probably listening saying, well, hold on, I feel like the world is on top of me. And, there are times when you feel like you have no control. And it's interesting. It's those times, it's easy to say, but it's actually those times you need to let go. And it's just, you talked about the chaos on the planet, and I agree there's a lot of chaos on the planet, but also, for me, it's also a choice whether you focus on that noise, you let it consume you, or you choose to do the breathing, to do the connection inside, and realizing that actually the work that you need to do is on the inside, not on the outside. You can use the example of schools. I mean, I can send love to wherever is needed, but I can't change what teachers do at schools. But we talked about my nephews and nieces before we started. I can choose to influence the people around me to the best of my ability, and that's kind of what I focus on. I can't focus on. I love to focus on things that I can change, and it's easy for me to say that. I get that, but for everyone that's listening, what's the one thing that you can change around you, and start there. It's kind of. I feel like the planet's going to go through even more chaos over the next 18 months, and it's going to be easy to get lost in what the planet's going through and let it consume you. But if you can just breathe and use, Vanessa just went through a technique of just kind of connecting with you, and you can connect with you and realize that everything that's happening is happening for you, that realizing that everything in your external world is a result of something in your internal. That's a beautiful way to start. And there's so many grounding techniques. Again, Vanessa talked about one. For me, just walking out, depending where you're on the planet, but in the UK and a lot of parts, we're in spring, so the weather's starting to improve. Walk barefoot on the grass, feel your connection to nature. There's so much magic around us. What do we choose to focus on? Do we choose to focus on the chaos that's in the planet? Of course, and it's affecting us, and a lot of us is affecting us in human ways, right? Financially, whatever that may look like. But it's appreciating the magic moments, and the more that you focus on the magic moments, the more you'll get. And what do I mean by magic moments? There's things that happen in this moment, and that's all we can really control. How much control do we have of the past? How much control do we have of the future? We can control this moment. So I believe if you focus on the magic of this moment, the universe will give you more of these moments.
Well, that's
Yes, you've still got to
where the
have the
power
human.
is.
Yeah, you've still got to have the human experience. I'm not telling you to bypass it, but it is, in the magic. And I'll just give you. I mean, there's so many grounding techniques. That Vanessa says. I'll just give you one that I've been using a lot recently with my clients. And we have 5 senses, and why don't we activate those 5 senses? So you start with 5 things you can see. Just use that sense of sight. What do you see? And then 4 things that you can feel. Just pick 4 things around you. Just activate that sense of feeling. 3 things that you can hear around you. Just stop, and it's like even if you're quiet around you, if you're quiet, you can still hear your breath. You can still hear different things around you. Just what are the three things that you can hear around you? And two things, what can you smell? And again, you may say, I can't smell anything. I don't know. If you use your imagination, who knows? And then one thing you can taste. Again, if you're not eating anything, you can still taste something. There's so many beautiful techniques, and taking time for you and picking something that lifts your soul is the best place to start. And realizing there's so much chaos, it's like, I realize sometimes I talk about the energy of the planets, and I like, yes, Neptune just moved into Aries, and this is going to be on a 14-year cycle, and it's going to impact us. Of course it is. But I can't change where Neptune is.
No.
I can change how I'm breathing.
And I
I
think
can
that's
change
key.
how I can, have this conversation, how present I am in this conversation. So again, I make it sound simple, and it's a muscle. The more that you remind yourself to focus on things you can change, the more that things will change. If you change the way you see things, things around you change.
Oh, massively so. And I think there's that lovely prayer from the recovery program, which has saved my life on many occasions. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And you talk about, focus on one thing you can change. My life's work has become about regulating our internal environment, because regardless of what is going on in the outside world, whether that is the war and the hatred, or whether that is the beauty that is evolving around us the whole time in nature. I think nature is the most exquisite example of everything has a season and a time to bloom, particularly now as we're in the UK in spring. But learning how to regulate your internal environment for me has become my life's work, because there are things that we don't and we're not able to control, however hard we try. On the outside, yes, we can influence, but the only thing I can control, regardless of what's going on the outside, is what I think, how I feel, and the choices I make in that moment. And because I can't do anything about the unlovely on the outside, there's no point me exhausting myself trying. But just like you and I are the end result of what was once an idea for our parents, right? So is everything material on the outside world. So therefore, if that is true of everything, whether I'm looking at my desk, this screen, anything that I'm experiencing with my five senses is the end result of what was once an idea. And that idea comes from the nothingness place. So when people say to me, yeah, but it's not that easy, how is that 1, 2, 3 tool going to help me? It will give you a relief point that brings you out of the edge of your life where you feel pulled apart and stressed and upset and unlovely, or whatever it might be, wherever your inverted commas problems are, toxic relationships or unlovely relationships, maybe financial worries, maybe ill health you're struggling with, or you're just aware of what's going on in the world around you. You breathing for 2 or 3 seconds just to bring yourself to be present with the energy that beats your heart is not going to solve that. However, someone's got to go first. There is a cycle that needs to be broken here. And I'm about taking responsibility for ourselves, learning to regulate our internal environment so that I can be more in my heart than my head. And what gets me going every morning is I imagine if everybody just looked after their corner of the world, which is they're the center of, our world would be very different. Nothing will change if I don't first make the first move. But if I can learn how to be open-hearted and allow my love, that vibration that beats my heart, to feed my mind, then my thoughts are going to be more loving. My choices will be more loving. And then we can be the example for anyone around us who is perhaps unaware that their power resides within them, not outside of them. And then you are then drawing to you more of the same, whether that be new conversations like we're having, whether that is a new opportunity that opens up. These things won't occur if we don't first take responsibility and learning how to be present with who we truly are. Because that power needs us as in our humanness to be able to express itself. It can't do it without us, and we can't do it, our thing, without that. Because if that energy is not beating my heart, I'm not here. So it's about working in tandem with it to help relieve that suffering.
So powerful. And it's realizing that, you know, we're a soul having human experience. That means we've got to have the human experience. It's like so many people are looking for a quick fix, right? There's no, you know, bypassing the human experience. Just tell me what I need to do, I'll be fixed. What if we're not broken?
No, exactly.
What if we don't need to be fixed?
No.
What if just accepting that you are the creator of your world? And actually, if your world is, one of a better word, if it's messed up and you're looking around, you think, well, hold on, I created this?
That's a hard pill to
Don't,
swallow, isn't it?
yeah. I don't know how to say it nicely, but yes, you did, actually, because everything in your external is a result of something in your internal. But it's also powerful because it means that you can change things. And sometimes it's so hard because there's so much going on, and you listen to some people on the podcast and they're like saying, well, you know, you're controlling things. You look around, you're like, I don't feel like I'm in control of anything. You know, we all have phases of our life like that, right?
Yeah.
But this is where, you know, so many things that we've talked about today, you know, self-care, self-compassion, doing one thing, just picking one thing, like, you know, breathe, take your shoes and socks off and walk barefoot on grass, or just walk and look around, feel the nature. Just doing one thing today sends a message to your psyche, to your soul, that you're important.
Well, I think
And then
that's,
tomorrow,
I
pick
love
a
that when
second
you
thing,
say that. Yeah.
pick a third thing, but pick what you're doing is you're sending a message that you're important. And then the more that you do that, the more that you'll start to realize that you're in charge, because the more that you breathe, the more that you accept that you're in charge, the more that you connect with your guides, the more that you connect with your soul, the more that you connect with nature, the more that actually you become grounded. And from there, you get to see the wood for the trees. You get to see that actually you can change things.
Well, that's the perspective shift, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think,
but
isn't
it's a
it?
decision.
Absolutely. My
It's a
favorite
decision.
hashtag is choice. Yeah. Yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
there was a point in my life where I felt so disempowered, and I've been brought up on, you know, that whole kind of what I call the old fashioned positive mental attitude that completely ignores the emotional side, which is what I am so passionate about now. But yeah, I agree that how you think certainly changes your world. But if you don't get in touch with what your emotions are doing, the two are very separate, but they're intrinsically linked. And there was a point in my life where I felt so disempowered because of what was going on in my life. And I was logically aware that my outer experience is dictating to me what's going on inside. But I just didn't get the whole fact that how I saw my life was what my experience was about. So, no, I can't control what other people do. So, therefore, if I am deluded to think that I change myself, then my outside world changes. It's the perception, how I see things. If I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. And that took me
100%.
ages to actually get that concept. But I recognized I was pointing my finger outside of me. Life was this, life was this, life was this. And I played a very good victim in my 20s, until I realized that there was three fingers pointing back at me. And I've come to believe that hurt people through my own experience. But also I understand that people who are open to being loving show up very differently in the world. So like loving people love people. So therefore I had to take responsibility for myself, and I had to take back my power. And I couldn't change the immediate situation I was in, but I could certainly feel more empowered about the fact that what could I do? How could I think? What could I feel? And gratitude for me was a game changer, and a really dark, deep place in my life. 2008, and I prayed for a miracle. Gratitude and love and gratitude were the three words that came to me. And I couldn't see how something that I know some people call woo-woo, how could something so woo-woo and intangible change my life? But it was so insistent at 3 o'clock in the morning, this message, love and gratitude, that I gave in, surrendered to it. Okay. And I just practiced, just for a few moments, gratitude. And it was very logic. I was going through a process, right? Thanks for the carpet, thanks to my children. But after a while, thank you for my cuddle. Thank you for helping me stir dinner. And as I'm standing over my children, thank you for my home. Thank you for the shirt on my back. I felt this weight lift from my shoulders. And in that moment, I promised myself I would do everything I could to understand why the intangible had so much more power over my life than I had ever given it credit for. And once I started to look at the beauty in my life, even though I felt like I was being buried alive by my issues and problems and the stuff that was going on, I started to see the beauty, even if it was a blue sky, a smile from a friend, somebody letting me out at a junction or on a roundabout. Really daft, simple things. And again, people say to me, but Vanessa, how's that going to help? Moment by moment, it helps. Because we cannot fix, there's nothing, I don't believe there's anything to fix it anyway, forgive me. I don't think there's anything wrong. We're not broken, we just think we are. And I had to do a massive 180 radical shift in my thinking and began to focus very simply on the beauty, tiny things that just compounded and built up. And nearly 20 years later, my life is in a very, very different place. But I always have control over how I feel and how I think in any given moment. The hard work is just choosing to come in when my whole world is trying to bring my attention out of me. It wants to keep me focused on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, I've done a lot of work on me. Do I feel I can control every moment and how I react to everything? Probably not. I think we all do some stupid things sometimes, but it's actually how you respond afterwards, right? How you integrate. And it's just, and today I'm just very conscious that there's a lot of people that, again, feel like the world is on their shoulders and trying to, when we talk about 20 years back and the work that we've done and who we are today, they're probably struggling with that because there's such a heavy emotion. And again, I love what you said about gratitude because that's such a beautiful place to start. And the way that I love talking about gratitude is to be intentional with it. So it's kind of easy to say, I'm grateful for the roof over my head, I'm grateful for the sun, whatever that may be. But actually, what I like to do is be intentional with that gratitude, is pick moments in my life that I'm really grateful for, like, this conversation. Like, over the weekend, I got to spend lots of time with loved ones. And every once in a while, I just like to stop and look around and just look at the interactions and look at the magic and and again, whatever your situation is, there's still times when you can stop and look around and be grateful for something. And when you're intentional for that something, whether it's a conversation with a loved one, whatever it may be, when you're intentional with it, what you're doing is you're creating a magic moment, like I was talking about earlier, and you're creating more of those. And it's just start somewhere. Because I get it. So many people feel overwhelmed and, they listen to the podcast and thinking, well, these guys don't understand me. They're talking to somebody else. And actually, we are talking to you. This is the thing. But, Einstein would say definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing, expect a different set of results. So you have to do something different. Vanessa talked about at the beginning, program life, right? These labels we give ourselves, and we are a soul having a human experience. So whatever you're experiencing, you're meant to experience.
Yeah.
But I love the phrase, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So the question is, are you now ready to stop feeling the pain and stop suffering to truly embrace the magic that's happening inside you? This is the thing. It's like, I feel like we're all meant to be the bridges and be the example for others. And so pick one thing out of everything we've said today, whether it's time in nature, whether it's just breathing, whether it's picking a magic moment. pick one thing and do that for you today,
Mm. I think
and
I
then
think
go
that
from there.
oh, absolutely. And I think from my experience and the conversations I have in my work, I do believe, or what's presented to me is that we as human beings, and I was one of those, and at times I can definitely fall back into this trap. We don't believe that we actually have the power. We think that we are being controlled. We're being guided. We're being supported, almost a bit like that flow, that power of love that we talk about, the energy is almost like a river that flows to and through us. And I think the thing that stops us most is trusting that power is there to guide me, to evolve me, to expand me. But I think we just lose sight of the fact that we think this is it, our humanness, this earth suit that we carry around. We think that's it, and we just can't see a way past how can something intangible actually be the very thing that is working its way through me and wants the very best for me. So gratitude, I understand now that if I can be grateful for the fact that that power has chosen me to beat my heart, to regulate my body temperature, to digest my food, to enable me to think and feel, that power has already chosen me. So my first thing is thank you for waking me up. Thank you for beating my heart, because it's just recognition that something loves me enough to keep me alive. And then I just very quickly began to appreciate that the more time, and it doesn't need, we don't have to be there for hours, but just intermittently in each moment, recognize, then you build the capacity to be able to appreciate that you have more power living within you than you can ever appreciate. And I feeling properly challenged in my life right now with a particular situation, and so much so that this morning my heart felt heavy as I went into the thinking around the panic of what the human me is experiencing. Now I've learned that if I stay in that panic, because that was my human reaction, was to panic. If I stay in that place, it's only going to get worse. And I now recognize that any time I feel unlovely or challenged in any way, the only place I will feel any kind of relief is centered in that present moment through breathing. Even if it just gives me respite for a few seconds to just not be in my thinking, rubbishy, limiting mind, that I can just access, or at least, and as you said it, when you choose that yourself, you're saying to the universe that you're somebody worth prioritizing, that you're important, that you're valuable. And even just in that moment, I don't expect it to fix anything. I just want to be present with it so I can say, I get it. This isn't down to me. This is you and me doing this together. And in that space, the pressure from my heart is relieved. I can feel more worthy and more confident that I can work in tandem with that power. And then I just trust that I can put one foot in front of the other and do the next right thing that feels good for me. And that's because that's all I can do. There's nothing left to do with where I've come from. I can feel
Interesting.
anxious incredibly quickly if I think too much about the future. But in any given moment, that energy that is beating my heart just wants me to recognize it and give it some attention and just to sit with it. And the problem is, I think that takes great vulnerability. And I think one of our greatest blocks as human beings is to be vulnerable, because we're so used to being in control with our overthinking mind and our program and what the world expects from us, that to release that, my experience has been, if I release that, who am I? But it just took me every so often and practiced. I started with 10 seconds because that's all I had the capacity for. You know, there's lots out there about meditation for 20 minutes, and if you haven't got time to do that, you need to do 40. And I think people panic. I think just 10
Yeah,
seconds, stare into a flame
yeah.
if you can't do it with your eyes shut. Look up at the clouds in the sky, but just practice
Or just breathe.
accessing and just breathe. Practice accessing that place within you. And I don't think it's any coincidence that our heart and our lungs are next to each other in our chest cavity. And I think just practice recognizing that there is a power that is orchestrating everything, that loves you enough to beat your heart. Feel that for 10 seconds, go off and do something else, come back another 10 seconds, and you begin to understand that there is a presence that has got you all the time. But it does take practice to learn to trust it, learn to listen to it, learn to follow it. And I think that is our greatest block. And that is what I am challenged with, even now after many years of practicing this. The more I expand, the more I'm invited to go into that place more often. And for me to share my voice, to share my thoughts, to share my experiences is probably, as a young girl, the scariest thing I could have ever have done with my life. I just wanted to hide away. But I believe God's taken me through some challenges in my life and some experiences to help me understand how it has become so complicated. And us as human beings, we've made it so complicated, and it's simply not. You're here to simplify spirituality. I think I'm here to help people understand that the power of love is who they truly are. And through my own experiences, if I can help other people understand what that block is and how to access their power, and just as best they can in any given moment, just appreciate that that power's got them, they really will learn to understand that that's the way to heal any past, any unlovely, and that they're able to show up as the true gifts that nature intended them to be for our world.
Powerful, powerful words. And, you know, it's interesting. What I always recommend, if you're going through something, know that you're a soul having a human experience, and whatever you're experiencing is part of your journey. So I always recommend also changing the question, because it's like, I agree, taking time just to breathe and being present. But also, when you change your question, you start to increase your awareness. And whatever you're going through is here to teach you something. And when you become aware and you start asking questions like, what is this here to teach me? What is this person? How is this person expanding me? Or what is this lesson? What is my lesson here? What is it here to teach me? And then the more that you move away from victim mode, because so often we use the words like, I knew this was going to happen. It always happens to me. Why me? And all that kind of victim mentality. Just changing your question is also a powerful shift. And, you know, I mean, I agree with, there's a greater power, but the greater power for me is within us. We're all one with God, the universe. I don't feel anything is separate. It's like my guides are part of who I am. My, you know, God's source, whatever you want to call it, is part of who I am. We're all one. And the interesting thing is it's a paradox. We're all one. We're all part of one vibration, but at the same time, we all have a unique role to play. Our soul has chosen to be here on this planet to play a unique role. And you were chosen to be here. It's always good to remind yourself that you were chosen to be here. I really believe whoever's here right now was chosen because the planet is going through such a shift. And you were chosen to be here during this shift because you have the power to make a difference.
Yes.
And knowing that you're needed, you're wanted, and you're part of the shift the planet's going through. And if you are going through something major, you're going through it because, one, you can, and two, you're part of the shift, because as your soul evolves with whatever you're going through, your lesson, your knowledge is going to help you, but it's also going to help others. I really believe that we're here for three main reasons. One is whatever karma we need to release, whatever ancestral personal karma we bring in from past lives. 2, our soul needs to expand in some kind of way. So whatever we're here to experience, our soul is expanded. And 3, I believe whatever comes from 1 and 2 is actually our training for what we're here to do on the planet.
Yes.
So what if we appreciate and we realize that actually everything we've been through is actually training us for something in the future? And who knows what that is? Maybe that's just to help one person. Maybe it's to help a group. Maybe it's to help thousands, maybe millions. Who knows? But it's accepting. Acceptance is the first. And doing one thing, like I said, we've said so many things, just breathing for 10 seconds. I mean, I always recommend, I'm probably one of the ones that Vanessa was talking about. I always recommend, being in silence for 10 minutes, but I would never suggest if you can't do 10, do 20. I mean, I don't know where that would come from, but, it's just doing one thing for you, but it comes from, I think the first place to always start is to breathe and be present. There's magic in you. And, the air, the prana on the planet is life-giving. So for me, that's the first place to always start, is just to breathe. Take deep breaths in, breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 4 seconds. The simplest thing. But the power in the breath is it's a life force.
Yeah. And I think people
But do one thing that resonates. That's my own. So before you, that's the one thing that out of everything we've said, pick one thing. Because the thing is that we always come up with humans. We come with a plan. I have a plan. I'm gonna shift everything. I'm gonna do all this list of things. January the 1st comes and we have all these New Year's resolutions. It's like we're on a treadmill. We're on the hamster wheel, and we've been programmed that the world is against us, and we need to put everyone else first, and all of a sudden we need to change things. And it's like, okay, we get this. I'm going to change the world today type energy, and maybe you can. I'm not saying you can't, but pick one thing. Set yourself up to succeed. Pick one thing that you're going to do regularly. Maybe 2 things, maybe 3 things, but pick and commit to do it for 21 days.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the consistency.
And that's a momentum, right? It's the shift. Repetition is the mother of skill. Pick it. And then, it's like we probably said like 20, maybe not 20, but maybe 10, 15 things that you can do. Pick a max of 3 and commit to do it for 21 days and just be. Again, it's like a lot of people like almost expecting it to fail. No, just be.
And I think one of the things that made me realize the importance of consistency was I wouldn't shower on a Monday and expect to still smell fresh on a Sunday. So I have to shower every day if I want to feel clean. I don't breathe once when I'm born and that's it for the rest of my life. I don't eat all my meals in one day for the rest of my life. And it's a constant choice. And I think that's the problem, is that we think it's one big thing we need to do, when what if the suggestion is simple and consistently. But the problem is that old programming is so strong. And there's that lovely quote from A Course in Miracles: you believe in the insanity because you created it, but you do not believe in love because you did not. And if we change a couple of words, you believe in the stories, the BS stories that you've created, that your ego will have you believe is you. You believe those because you created them, but you do not believe in the power of love because you didn't create that. It created you. And I think that those small, tiny, and we know logically that this is the truth and it works, but we struggle because we believe the old programming. So that's why starting with just 10 seconds of breathing, is that going to help me out of my situation I'm in? Not right this minute, but if I chose it and then I chose it again and I chose it again, I chose it again, I chose it again, I'm telling the universe I'm ready to experience something different. Show me the way. And I love what you said about ask a different question. One of the questions I started asking myself was, what's the next loving thing I can do for myself? What's the most loving thing I could do for myself in this moment? I've had random things. Walk up and down the stairs twice, get an apple and peanut butter, call a friend, stand outside and count how many
apple
birds
and
you
peanut
can.
butter.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's protein, right? I'm a vegetarian, so it's protein. But it's like, but
Okay.
the point is it's kind of random. And I've trusted my intuition rather than going, no, that's ridiculous. I haven't got time to eat apple and peanut butter. But I remember one time I was led to the larder to get the peanut butter, and I found my son's passport that we'd lost for 3 months, right? So the point being is if I follow my intuition, it will lead me to what I need. But we think we know better. And that's why what's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? It might be think of someone you love so that it brings that loving, warm joy to your heart. It might be stick my head outside the front door and just take 10 breaths while I'm working on a big project. Who knows? But I think the point being, it doesn't matter what comes to you. What matters is you ask, you listen, and then you follow what you're given. And that is the 3 simple steps, isn't it? Just ask, just,
100%.
what do I want to experience? Like, and then follow what your intuition, because your intuition, your guides, your inner essence, whatever you want to call it, knows the way, but we don't give it an opportunity to tell us where to go. So if I follow it, then the other thing I like to add on to that is I celebrate when I do. I literally tap myself on the back and go, well done, Vanessa. You recognized it was a bit unlovely, so you asked a different question. Your intuition gave you something. You followed it. Well done. And then I recognize that, because now the universe goes, all right, she's serious. Okay, let's give her what she really needs.
I love it. I love it. Celebration is such a big part of everything we do. And it's just, for me, if I was to summarize this podcast, it's this episode is to remember that you have the power to shift things. And it's just, and
You really do.
your soul having a human experience, you have to do the work, right? It's that there isn't, I did an episode on the spiritual bypass, right? It's that sometimes we want to bypass and just accelerate our journey. And it's just, we're a soul having human experience. So you can't bypass the human experience. And believe me, I've had this conversation with my soul many a time. So the first thing you realize is that you have the power to do something different. And
But you
then
got to
pick
access
one
that
thing
power
to
then.
do. Yeah, well, how do you access that power? Is pick one thing to do this for you today, whether that's just breathing, whether that's just, and what I mean by changing the question, whatever's happening, if what we're saying is true, and I really believe it is, that everything in your external is a result of something in your internal, which means that whatever you're going through, it is here to teach you something.
Yeah.
And just to slow it, because your soul asks for it, right? So it's like, hold on. And the realization, sometimes I really believe that this generation has picked so much intense energy, so many things to go through at such a deep level, because we're trying to clear so much karma, so the next generation doesn't have to go through so much. So we chose to experience things at such a deep level, which means that actually it takes some work to just see the wood for the trees, or whatever phrase you want to pick. But breathing and just realizing you have the power inside you, and even if you're just sitting 10 seconds and just breathing. And also, like I said, change the question. What is this teaching me? What are you learning in this moment? Or go back to your deepest pain that you felt previously and ask, okay, what did I learn from that? Because then celebrating, because you realize that whatever you're going through, this too will pass. It's a phase.
It's a good reminder. It really is a good reminder, because nothing lasts forever. And that's the good and the not so good, if we want to label it anything, the good and the bad. It
It's a
is
phase.
transitory. It is transitory. So it's about, if ever anyone has been caught in choppy waters in the sea, for example, that all you really need to do is just hold on, because the waves will pass. But unless you've experienced that, we try too hard, I think, to pull ourselves out of things. Whereas actually, if we just kept the strength for longer and held on, somebody will come along or a door will open. But we don't like experiencing the pain and the uncertain in the moment. So we do what we can to avoid it. And my life's work has more been about just bliss, boldly live in sweet surrender. Access that place within you because it will carry you through if you let it. You can't do it alone. You're not meant to do it alone.
Yeah, powerful actually, because I feel like, I talk a lot about shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine. I feel like the shift to divine feminine, interesting enough, is also about community. It's also about working with others. Whereas the divine masculine has always been about ego, right? Kind of like, I can do anything and all the rest of it. This shift is just really interesting. And just before we close, I just thought of one other thing. And again, pick what works. But I remember a mentor in the past, and for those listening, just wearing a bracelet of some sort, just every once in a while, just flicking it and reminding yourself this too shall pass. It's called a pattern interrupt, right? It's basically sending a message to your psyche that this is a phase and this too shall pass. And knowing that this is a phase allows you to breathe. And then from there, you can pick one of the techniques we talked about. I just want to remind people, you are powerful. You're powerful, and you listen to this because we are talking to you. Because it's like, if you're sitting there thinking they're not really talking to me, actually, we are talking to you. You're powerful. You're a powerful being that is capable of so much more than you can ever imagine. And you chose to listen to this episode because you needed to hear those words.
Yeah. We teach what we need the most. So
100%.
I know in everything I do, I'm also speaking to myself. I'm all about inclusion and reminding. And some days we're on it and we feel on fire, and other days we just feel like we're sinking. And I think that's okay. But I think having the courage to be still, to know that whatever it is that's beating your heart and sustaining your very existence loves you unconditionally, and just practice being with that for however short amount of time, and build your capacity to really understand that it's got your back and just wants the very best for you. And when you know that that is your life's partner, then you will attract everyone and everything that you need to be able to appreciate life is a fulfilling experience if you choose to see it that way.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Vanessa, as we're closing out this episode, I'd love for you to share kind of more of what you do, how people can reach out. I'll include your details in the show notes. But anything you want to share about how people can work with you, please do share.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. The label I give myself, or that other people's have given me, is an emotional health coach. I want to help people tap into the energy that resides within them, align their thought process with that energy so that they can make choices that help them show up in life with confidence, purpose, and joy. My website is vanessaloves.life, and there is ways to connect with me on there. I'm always open to discovery calls because I do realize it's a very personal thing for people to say, you know what, there's something in my life that's not working because I'm experiencing some kind of pain or struggle or suffering, and I'm tired of it. Something's got to change. But I hold a loving, non-judgmental, safe space where I hold your hand and your heart and walk with you. And I just love helping people reveal their true beauty. And it's a personal experience. So I think it's important to have a connection first. And if I happen to be the person that you feel connected to, that wants to support you, then it's always an honor. Always an honor.
Thank you. And I agree. I really believe anyone that works with me, it's a soul contract. And so if our voices resonate, Vanessa's voice resonates, then sure, reach out. My voice resonates, reach out. It's a soul contract. It's something that, should touch your heart and your soul. You can do the research on people, but also trust your own intuition, trust your heart. Vanessa, thank you for sharing this space with me. I've enjoyed our conversations last week, and this one, I feel like it's all connected. And there's so much love in the world. And, if this episode resonates with you, if there's one thing that you choose to do, let us know what that one thing is. I'd love to know, what action did you take from today? So many gems that we shared, so many things that you could do differently. Don't overwhelm yourself. Pick one thing, but let us know what the one thing is. I'd love to know. What are you committing to do for you today?
Yeah.
Vanessa, I'm sending you so much love and light. So giving you the biggest hug. Thank you for being here, for sharing this space. And I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Wow. The thing that comes to mind is the words that I woke up with probably about a decade or so ago in a dark time in my life was, you, just as nature intended, are this world's greatest gift. So learn how to strip yourself back, recognize that it is the power of love, is the essence of you. And you will then be able to live a life where you feel more at peace with yourself. Thank you. I really appreciate your time and for interviewing today.
Thank you. Love and light to everybody. Bye for now.